guests and viewers at home, welcome to Golden Speakers Toastmasters. We are having a little business at the beginning of the meeting tonight to induct 3 new members. I would like to offer our guests an opportunity to stand up if they would like and say why they came tonight. Are there any guests in the room that would like to introduce themselves?
Hi everyone, I know some people here. My name is Elaine Pompery. I work at MUM as Associate Dean of Students, and I came to this meeting to think about joining. I've been to a couple other meetings before, so nice to see you all. Thank you.
Gentlemen, also in the back.
Yes, my name is Yu Chang Zhu. I'm your guest. Actually, I'm John Miller's guest. I come here just to listen to the presentation. I'm very encouraged that he has done a lot of research in this area that he's presenting. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Will, can you cut for just a minute? Toastmasters Club is the same mission as every other Toastmasters Club in the U.S. Are we on? Great. Our mission is to create a supportive and positive learning environment in which each and every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence. How do you do? How are you?
Good, thank you.
And personal improvement. Tonight we have several members who have just joined our club, and we're going to do an official vote to vote them into the club and an induction ceremony. So you each have, if you are a member, I've passed out papers for you to read, which are our club pledge. Now, fellow Toastmasters, it is now our duty and privilege to induct 3 new members into the Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. This is an important occasion both for these new members and for our club. These individuals have come to Toastmasters seeking to improve their communication skills, and we now have an opportunity to help them learn, grow, and achieve. I will now call our new members forward and ask them to join me at the lectern. Please withhold your applause until the end of the ceremony. Annette Estes, would you please come forward? Annette, how about this? All in favor of Annette Estes as a new member in Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We have majority vote. John Miller, please come up.
Madam President, just a question point of order. Maybe perhaps with if we're voting on membership or not, we can have the sergeant at arms escort the candidate out so that we can vote without their presence. That's usually what's done.
This is just a formality. The voting is just a formality to make sure that we have it on record that we voted. And we already know that we welcome these members wholeheartedly. This is a legal formality.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm just
So
saying
I don't
there's
think.
some other ways, yeah, but okay, all right.
Would you like to do it?
Well, just if you're taking a vote, if there is a vote that's a yay, nay, then having usually the person is escorted from the room and then brought back in.
Could you do it by just raising hands and turning them back?
You guys could this time you guys could just shut your eyes. I'm just saying, Ron, it's your. Yeah.
Okay.
Does it not say anything about taking?
Mehdi Gandari is not here, so we will skip all the voting. We don't need to know if they're elected or not, because we don't want them to be offended.
Is coming.
Who comes?
Okay.
Rhonda? Or, I could just take John and Mehdi out. You guys can vote, and then we'll bring them back in.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'll be the
He's
temporary.
going to start new members outside while we vote.
I'll be temporary sergeant at arms.
in favor of Mehdi Gandari being a member of Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. No nays. Okay, so Mehdi Gandari is approved, elected as a member in the club. All in favor of John Miller as a new member in Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. 0 nays, so the ayes have it. Very good.
Please adjourn. Adjourn with bringing horses.
Just take it. Research, take it in, it's like you're humiliated.
Please come stand up front, new members. Thank you. Annette, Mehdi, and John, you are joining a worldwide organization that has helped nearly 3 million people learn to communicate more effectively. As members of the Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, you will benefit from a proven program of self-development. You will become part of an outstanding group of people who are dedicated to helping one another in a spirit of sharing and enjoyment. We have made sure that you each have a mentor. Mehdi Gandari, your mentor will be Louis Denbaum. John Miller is an advanced speaker and does not need a mentor until he's interested in the future, per his request. And then Annette Estes will have Stephanie Chambers as her mentor. Membership in this club and in Toastmasters International is a privilege that carries with it many rewards, yet it also places certain obligations upon you. We are a group of people brought together to do things we could not accomplish alone. Our collective obligation is to grow and improve ourselves and to share our knowledge and experience with fellow members in a spirit of enjoyment. This means you must work diligently toward your self-development, evaluate others' speeches in a spirit of support and sharing, assist the club in reaching its goals, and remain positive and keep a smile on your face. We ask you, our new members, to dedicate yourselves to personal growth, to share this great gift with your fellow members, and to help keep this Toastmasters Club strong and dynamic. Please face your fellow members and affirm your membership by repeating the following words on the sheet given to you. You may begin.
I, and it is.
John Miller. And Maddie.
Please
In the
continue.
presence
In the
of my
presence.
fellow members and students. 1, 2, 3. In the presence
of my fellow members of Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club,
make this firm obligation to attend meetings regularly and prepare fully for each assignment, to apply myself to the program outlined in the Toastmasters Manual, to participate actively in club activities, to evaluate others in a positive, constructive manner, to build open and friendly relationships with my fellow members, and to bring other new members into the club so they can also gain the benefits of Toastmasters.
Now, members, would all club members please stand and repeat our club's pledge to its new members? Ready? Go.
We, the members of Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club, pledge to support you in your pledge of self-development, to provide you with positive, helpful evaluations, to maintain a friendly, supportive atmosphere, to give you opportunities to help others, and to make your Toastmasters membership a rewarding and fulfilling experience.
Thank you. Members, you may be seated. Now, here you have a name tag for each new member. John already has his. Ready? we will have our chosen Toastmaster, Jeff Shipley, conduct the rest of the meeting.
All right, Jeff.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, new members, honored and distinguished guests, viewers at home. My job as Toastmaster is to keep our meeting moving along and to direct ceremonies tonight. Our theme for tonight's meeting is National Repeat Day. To repeat what others have said requires education. To challenge it requires brains. That is Mary Pettibone Poole. Yeah. So I appreciate the sentiment of that quote, but when I think of repetition, I take a different kind of approach. Actually, when I first became aware of the theme for tonight's meeting, I first thought of Toastmasters. Because what do? Every single Tuesday, with every single speech, we're doing the same thing week in and week out. It's quite a repetition. And why do we do that? Because redundancy is the key to learning. We're repeating these things because it's important. So if you ever hear me repeating something or saying something over and over again, it's probably because it's a pretty good point. I want you to pay attention to it. So viewers at home and all members of the audience, I hope you'll follow our activities tonight or like us on Facebook, as we want to keep you as involved in our club as possible. So to keep this meeting moving along, as we are a little bit behind schedule already, I will introduce our role players without further ado. To start out with, our timer tonight is Monty Condon. Could you explain your role?
Thank you, Jeff. As our Toastmaster said, my role tonight is the timer, and it's a simple job, and I keep time. Now, all of our speeches are from our table topics to our prepared speeches. There's a minimum time that you're supposed to speak, and there's a maximum time you're supposed to speak. It is my duty as timer to keep track of those times. Also, besides our speeches, our whole meeting, as Jeff alluded to, is actually on a schedule. We're a little bit behind right now, but it's also the timer's job to keep track of of the time of the segments of each part of the meeting. And if it gets off time, I'm supposed to alert the Toastmaster. Now, to jump right in, our table topic speeches are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light goes on at 1 minute. The yellow light, meaning that you're getting close to being done, goes on at 1:30. The red light, which means stop, goes on at 2. Our prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes, but tonight we're in for a treat. We have an extra long presentation that is being given by John Miller. His green light will come on at 26 minutes. His yellow light will come on at 28 minutes. And his red light will come on at 30 minutes. Now, besides speeches, we also have evaluations. Both the table topic evaluator and the speech evaluators have 2 to 3 minutes to give their evaluation. The green light comes on at 2. The yellow light comes on at 2:30. And the red light for them comes on at 3 minutes. All speakers and evaluators have a 30-minute grace period after the red light has come on to wrap up their speech. Table topic speakers need to speak for at least 1 minute to qualify for voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Next, I'd like to introduce our odd counter, Annette Estes.
I'm the odd counter tonight, and one of the things that we do sometimes when we're speaking, especially when we're nervous or maybe not prepared, is we get lost, and we're afraid sometimes for silence. Wow, we all live in Fairfield, but anyway, we'll fill the silence with or or We'll say things like, you know, so, but, and. Now, it's okay to say but and. You just did it. It was fine. I didn't do that one. But it's just when it's kind of used as a filler, it doesn't really fit. Noises, making noises, clicking your tongue, and so forth. Long pauses that are awkward. Xerox. I've always wondered what that is. Maybe somebody can tell me. I think it's repeating yourself. Repeating. Okay. I figured that out, but I wanted to make sure. And a false start would be starting and messing up and starting.
We'll try.
But anyway, it's natural. Don't worry about it. I said 2 hours last time I spoke, he was not aware of it at all. So he probably won't be either, but I'll let you know.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. I eagerly await your report. Next, we'll have Diane Denbaum. Looks like you have something different than usual.
Yeah,
But, all right.
I do, I think. Good evening, everyone. The theme was repetition or repeating, so I thought one word that's repeated constantly is the word great. What a great dress, what a great man, what a great husband, what a great president. So tonight, I'll have you use the 6 synonyms that I came up with for great. Magnificent, tremendous, outstanding, smashing, terrific, or fantastic. Other than that, I'll keep track of incorrect or good use of the English language and just nice sounding things. Thank you. I'll report at the end. So just use the word great.
Outstanding introduction of your role, Diane. All right, then also we'll be hearing from our general evaluator, Rick Starr. Later this evening, we'll hear from our joke master, Art Atkinson. And other than that, I will introduce our table topics master for the appetizer of tonight's meeting, our table topics. So I'd like to bring up Will Burns.
Thank you, Jeff. As he alluded to, this is the appetizer portion where we ask guests, Toastmasters, and viewers at home that actually come down here to see us to speak off the cuff, so to speak. I'm actually not wearing any cuffs today, so I'm going to ask somebody else to come down here. I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Come on up, Franklin. Welcome. Pick a number between 1 and 5. 1. Number 1. What is one memory that keeps repeating in your head? Thank you.
What is one memory that keeps ringing in your head? I repeated myself. That repetition required education. But I'm going to challenge this education. But should I repeat it when somebody has already asked me the question? Yes, sir. The memory which is ringing in my head has brought me here. My education with the Toastmaster, with the Golden Speakers Club. And again I can come and say, this is a magnificent club with magnificent educators, smashing personalities, tremendous effort, and outstanding achievement. I just love being in Golden Speaker Toastmasters Club. Why? Because when I came here, my legs were shaking, my voice was choking, and I was still trying to become as good a speaker as an American can speak. With Golden Speakers, I can say, with every meeting, I have improved. And I keep on coming on this stage no matter how nervous I feel, because this is the platform where you can change from a common man to a great man. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow, but I encourage one of you to try. But I see any volunteers. Jesus, come on.
Jesus.
Woo! Okay, 2 through 5. If you could see someone one more time, who and why?
Question. My mind divides a couple of ways. I would like to say that my father, but it will just be bad memories I like to think of a friend of mine, a friend that we grew up together, did a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. Nevertheless, they were all fun. Being with him, I always feel like heavy knives in my back because I knew that walking with him, and sometimes we would be walking like we weren't even together, but I knew that he was always watching for me, and I will always be watching for him. It's like my brother. Many troubles. I can't even begin to start to think some of the things that we did together that were not appropriate to do. We were just pranksters. Some people just call it felonies. But we're not gonna go there. So the person that I would like to see again,
Yes.
that will be my friend. His name is Marcelino. Then I hope one day he gets to see this video and maybe just refresh my mind of some of the things that I probably forgot about it. So the person will be Marcelino.
Two down, more to go. Gene. Okay, we have 1 and 2 out, so we have 3, 4, and 5. If you could live one of your past summers over again, which one and why?
Thank you, Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. Am I going to be the good Gene, or am I going to be the naughty Gene? I think I'm feeling the naughty Gene. The summer that I would select was the summer, I think it was between 7th and 8th grade. My Aunt Emily had hired me to be the nanny for her kids down at Virginia Beach. Must have been 6 weeks, but you know how summer is when you're young, it just seems like it's forever. So my parents sent me down there. Now in my normal habitat, I was a good girl. I was one of the nice girls. I still am, actually. But I saw this as an opportunity. I was going to be away from family, away from friends. I could create my own identity at Virginia Beach. I was about 14, so I'm not sure where exactly that was, but I became a bad girl. And it was so fun, because there were a bunch of kids. We were all running around the neighborhood, and for some reason they looked up to me, because I was a little bit older than the 12 and 13-year-olds that were part of this group. And I got to walk on the wild side. I even, and this is something that I've been able to, if I did drink, I could say I can get drinks for the rest of my life on this, was that I got invited out by a high school boy, which was pretty high up the food chain, to go see this musician that I didn't know anything about, but it was, hey, it was cool, it's going to be a rock concert. It was Jimi Hendrix. Third row. You know, there it is. I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I saw his teeth on the strings. I can still wow people with that. That is a summer I could definitely relive.
Thank you, Gene, for showing us 2. I'd love to take more, but we're having to wrap this thing up and move on to our speaker. So now I'm going to call back up our Toastmaster, Jeff Shipley.
Thank you very much, Will. Now our agenda calls for our Table Topics evaluator to evaluate each of the Table Topics speakers. Oh, first before that, we will take just one quick moment to vote on who we thought performed the best. And Mr. Timer, could you relay the names back of the participants? If they qualified.
ask the timer?
Yeah, Monty, did the participants' table topics qualify?
Everyone qualified.
Can you repeat their names?
We have Pender, Jesus, and Jean.
Welcome back to our Smashing Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club right here in Fairfield, Iowa, coming at you from the Hy-Vee Club Room. Like us on Facebook. Now I'd like to bring up our table topics evaluator, Stephen Harper.
We had 3 fantastic speeches tonight, did we not? Let's give it a yeah. First, we had Upanger. Did I pronounce that right? Is it Upanger? Upanger. Thank you very much. Benga.
No,
DRA.
DRA.
All right.
DRA.
All right, great. Thank you. We have to listen. I need to learn to listen more closely and more attentively. You started out by repeating the question, which I thought was a good way to start. Then you kind of said some things that weren't quite as strong, but you have a very strong voice. You talked about the smashing personalities of the people in the club. You used your finger the way I have seen great speakers making a point, like Martin Luther King did that, I believe. And I like that a lot. However, you did stay behind the lectern. It was okay, but I think that the people that get out in front of the lectern tend to be closer to the audience, right? We feel more personal connection sometimes with the people when they get around here and look at people straight in the eye once in a while. You had a very strong finish, talking about Toastmasters being something that can change a person from a common man to a great man. A ringing phrase, very good. Jesus, again, I thought that you had a bit of a slow start. In fact, I would say that for everybody tonight. It seemed like the first 15 seconds of everybody's speeches, people were still thinking out loud. And one thing I would like to suggest for all of our speakers is take 30 seconds. I don't know if we emphasized this at the beginning, but you have 30 seconds to think about what you're going to say so that you don't have to still be deciding what it's going to be during those first few seconds. You don't have to start speaking right away. Jesus, you got right out here, and we felt very close to you. You have a great smile. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. You have a very friendly face, and you win people over. You used humor in your speech, and it was very heartfelt. I think you won us over by your honesty and sincerity of your feelings, deep feelings about this deep personal relationship that you have. That really came through, surprisingly in such a short amount of time. So that was very good. I would continue with even more of that. Jean, also, I thought that you might have been thinking out loud for the first few seconds. I can't remember what you said, but then you picked it up and it got into a really good story. I really liked when you changed your posture and, I became a bad girl. You really embodied that. And then your smile when you talked about, and the show was Jimi Hendrix. That smile just really won us all over. We all could really relate to that. So, great table topics, speeches tonight. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Stephen, for that magnificent evaluation. We will now move on to the main event for our meeting this evening, our prepared speeches. And I'd like to call up Louis Denbaum to read the objective for our speaker, John Miller.
Club members, new members, guests and viewers at home. Our speaker tonight is John Miller, who was born and raised in Minnesota. After graduating from the Air Force Academy, John did tours of duty in Texas and Thailand in the Cultural Diversity Training Program. Then John spent nearly a decade of full-time commitment to the Himalayan Yoga Institute, where he met his wife. John entered the social work field while completing his master's in Eastern Studies and Comparative Psychology at the University of Scranton. John then entered the teaching field by transitioning into teaching at prisons and correctional institutions, where he was involved in drug and alcohol programs and adult basic education. Following a 2-year stint with the Veterans Administration, John and his wife moved here to Fairfield, Iowa. He earned a master's degree at Maharishi University of Management in Vedic Science. And including in that degree was his final project, which was teaching English in China. Presently, he works on proposals for offering trainings at the new Institute of Asian and American Studies at Maharishi University of Management. John is doing a very interesting project tonight. I've never seen this project. It's from the Advanced Communication and Leadership Manual. And topic number 1 is called the Seminar Solution. His objectives are to present an introductory, short or brief lecture describing a topic, and then he will lead a discussion after the presentation. And he will organize us into groups so that we can solve a problem that he directs us towards during his speech. So, I'd like to welcome John Miller.
Thank you, Louis. Speech master, I forgot your title already. I'm sorry. Speech evaluator. I like speech master.
All right.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. Let me begin with some words of wisdom here. It goes on from there. A lighthearted way to begin the program. Some of you might remember Rick Nelson from the 60s. Intercultural communication. Drawing on your natural skills. Pictured is actually a representation of the symbol that we used in the military 40 years ago in our cultural diversity program. Whoops. Pardon me while I join and interact with the audience a bit.
What that was.
Thank you. How many of you have visited a foreign country? Raise your hand. Just about everyone. How many plan to do so again in the next year or two? You're way ahead of the curve on this. Let me just share with you that about 35% of Americans have passports. Destinations, France is number 1, Spain number 2, China number 3. In 2009, 15 million of us traveled overseas. About 5%, so again, you're way ahead of the curve in that regard. While at the same time we received 50 million visitors here. Surely, you desire a rich experience in your foreign travels or in hosting or meeting foreigners here. Tonight's topic is developed with that in mind. We shall first look at photos of diversity in countries of my recent experience, China and Thailand compared with the US. Then we will broaden the scope and make some generalized statements about differences in Eastern and Western values and behaviors. Then, in small group discussion, I'll ask you to explore your acquired skill base, which is going to consist of your experiences in the past with new employment and or with changes of residence. How your preparation for either of those may have some relevance in meeting and greeting foreign people. Okay. Finally, we will touch on stressors that were encountered in many, many thousands of Peace Corps volunteers. And we will see how your acquired skill base relates to their experiences. Typically, the process of interacting with another culture follows roughly 6 steps. As we move from an ethnocentric focus on our own culture to what is termed ethno-relativism, seeing and appreciating values as being cultural rather than universal. So we move from, first of all, denial of differences at all to an experience of admitting them but being defensive about them, to still admitting them but minimizing their impact, then moving into ethno-relativism, acceptance of those differences, adaptation to them, and finally full integration of them so that they become second nature for us. No problem in a sense. Is that clear? Any questions about that? Let's look at some unusual features of several cultures that may at first trigger the ethnocentric bias, such as this street scene. It's a Chinese street scene. You can notice the lettering, the bright colors of the lanterns up front. Does it appear cluttered or unattractive in any way to your Western sensibilities?
Yeah, it looks kind of pretty.
However, if we consider diversity as a mixture of items characterized by differences and similarities, we notice that behind the bright colors and the signage, we see high-rises, clothing on display, and such that we're very familiar with. So it may not be so different after we explore it. Diversity and stress. Stress is most often created by the way we define, perceive, and interpret our personal relationship to the world, from Freedom from Stress by Dr. Nuremberg. Therefore, a key to the effectiveness of stress management lies in how we perceive diversity. Let's look at examples, first of all, from mythology. Western mythology, 2 prominent figures from our Greek heritage is the centaur, half man, half horse, Pegasus, a flying horse. Might that be perceived as unusual to a foreign visitor? Perhaps. If we were to visit China and study Chinese mythology, we may encounter Nuwa and Fuxi, deities that many thousands of years ago were worshipped as the ultimate ancestor of humankind, half snake, half human. Might that appear unusual to Western sensibilities?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Religious architecture. Pictured is a Buddhist pagoda in China, Jizhuan, and a Taoist temple, Temple of Heaven, in Beijing. Followed by a temple, Buddhist temple in Bangkok, Ratchanadaram. I should point out that the roof tiles that you see are characteristic of almost every Thai Buddhist temple, 35,000 of them. Red, gold, and green tiles, along with, this is called a chofa. It is said to represent a snake that protected the Buddha when he did his 40 days of meditation. St. Francis Catholic Church, Dyersville, Iowa. Many Western church structures picture one or two steeples like this. Okay? Common theme. Not so common is the Air Force Academy Chapel with 17 steeples, 17 spires. Let me share with you what some congressmen, American congressmen, said about this when it was first developed, built in the 1950s. One called it an aluminum monstrosity, like polished teepees. Another called it a travesty on religion. A third called it an assembly of wigwams. Now, if you overlook their obvious ethnic bias, none of those were Native Americans, and would not have said that, I'm sure, if they had been. Still, it suggests some difficulty with the design. So you could imagine Easterners coming, internationals coming, and perhaps being a bit puzzled over this design as a religious structure as well. Music. Traditional Chinese musicians playing traditional Chinese stringed instruments with traditional garb. Traditional Thai music, again in traditional garb of Thai people. American, perhaps the two most widely used American instruments, piano and guitar. Not so common, the theremin. Has anyone seen a theremin?
No.
Heard of it. A couple of you. Theremin was invented by a Russian under a US patent, 1928. It's the only instrument that is played without touching it. See? Electronic instrument. The left hand controls the volume, the right hand controls the pitch. Vehicles, some unusual vehicles. This was the most unusual vehicle I encountered in China. They pull up next to our taxi. It's a whatchamacallit. I really don't know what it's called, nor do I know what it does. I saw a very similar one last weekend on an Afghanistan documentary, so I know that they are more perhaps common in some Eastern countries. Thailand, the classic tuk-tuk taxi. Has anyone ever ridden in one of these? We were advised by our tourist guide last month not to do so because we might get taken for a ride where we don't want to go. Some shopping. What about Western vehicles? Do we have the unusual? Well, sometimes. This I encountered in Portland, Oregon a couple of years ago. This I encountered in, where?
Colorado.
Chautauqua Park in Fairfield. If you ever go to Preston, Minnesota, be careful crossing streets and such. You may be puzzled about which way this vehicle is going. Language provides a window to the culture, according to a researcher, Bernard St. Jacques. Difficult to translate, and you could imagine, when I was in China last year trying to speak Chinese, I made some very embarrassing faux pas. Here we have a couple of difficulties with translation. 1.2 meter child's of height shortage, don't split anywhere. So it's not easy to go from one language to another. These are just some small examples, and I'm sure we would encounter very similar problems going from English to Chinese. What about foods? Chinese restaurants abound in the US, so the foods are not so unusual anymore. although I've never seen a fish staring me in the eye like this Nima Tolosa dish here, but still it's fairly common. Here we have fast food Thai style, as fast as she can bring it to you. This is a sticky rice concoction here. A little bit slower food, cooked, some dumplings of some sort, the sticky rice again, fruits, and rice dish on the end. American foods reflecting the diversity of cultures, Mexican, Italian, New England clam chowder, and many of the foods that you see perhaps in Fairfield. Now these are external representations of cultural diversity. Let's look at some what could be called internal representations. These all come from a particular text I highly recommend. Intercultural Communication, edited by Samovar, Porter, and McDaniel. I'll leave it here for your examination later. One researcher, Japanese researcher, Yoshitaka Miike, writes that the Asian worldview of communication is primarily about building connectedness, while the Western view is primarily about promoting self-interest. These are generalizations. They aren't always the case. Looking at the Japanese culture, a Western researcher, Peter Anderson, characterized eye contact as meaning disrespect in the Japanese culture, whereas in the U.S., it is a sign of respect and connection, especially in Toastmasters. We are trained to do that. He also notes that in Korean culture, being more verbal is a negative, whereas in the U.S., it's viewed as a positive for the most part, is it not? He notes that in Chinese culture, they tend to strongly favor group harmony over individual, whereas in the U.S., he characterized it as the most individualistic culture on earth. Final note, he writes that U.S. culture is the most smell-aversive culture on earth. So we try to cover over things with other odors. We have car fresheners, home fresheners, body fresheners, you name it. All these artificial chemicals. Even within American cultural dynamics, one researcher, Joan Wynn, notes an example of several African American students who had won a writing contest but were reluctant to verbalize questions to a white media expert saying, "We don't talk right," displaying what is termed Ebonics, or Black English as it's called sometimes, their perception of that being an issue, the way that they were expressing themselves. Cultural differences do abound. How to adjust to them? What I'd like to do next is break you into small groups and have about 20 of us, so that's 5 or 6 per group. Let me say that if we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Steve, Dr. Zhu, and this side will be one group, and I will pass out a folder, and then 1, 2, 3, if we can have Will and these 2 gentlemen here as a second group, and Stephanie, Kashif, and Nelson, 1, 2, 3, Elaine, and let's break up Scott here, okay, with the last group. So Jean, if you can join this group, and Scott, Art, and Cindy, Diana, sorry.
It's okay.
And Lois, Rhonda, and
This with Will and
yes.
Jason.
I'm going to make this happen. I'll do what needs to be done to make this job happen well, to make this change of residence happen well. You may have found that happening as you wrote down your responses here. Let's see what you came up with. The first group here, what kinds of skills did you generate that?
Well, in the context of changing location due to a move, I mean, the first thing you can do is unpack your things and reestablish familiar surroundings that you had used previously. Reestablish familiar routines that you use throughout your day to develop consistency from one place to the next. Going to similar places that you enjoyed in previous locations, such as finding a new park that you like to hang out or another jogging path. When you move, getting lost in the town to really kind of experience the feel. Getting lost in the town and going to parties. Acquiring an understanding of local culture. Acquiring friends and other companions to make you feel comfortable in this new environment. And when you change a job, sometimes nonverbal communications don't always add up, so a good thing to become acquainted with your coworkers, go out to lunch together, engage in conversation, improve your own language skills, familiarize with their accents and maybe different meanings of colloquialisms, etc.
Thank you. Excellent job. Good collection of opportunities there. Looks like Will is the recorder here, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. What did your group come up with?
Okay.
A selfie. A selfie.
Yeah.
So, our group here talked about the importance of basically, actually, in a similar vein, being basically just doing it, being more social, making friends, listening is a big part. Listening to those around us and learning from them.
Okay. Thank you kindly. And who is the third group? Stephanie?
Okay, our group came up with things like breaking it into parts so you don't get overwhelmed, observing patterns in people, studying the people before you get there, being friendly, being positive, giving it time. I joined Toastmasters.
Oh, wow. Look at that. That's fantastic.
God.
That was mostly, and I think you have to be prepared to make some concessions, but you don't have to give up your own culture necessarily.
Okay, concessions. I will add that up here where it might fit. Thank you. And Brooke, I'm sorry we can't get to. I bet you have some great ideas, Phil. Don't forget these important points.
Yes.
Well, I'll take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Hi, welcome back to Golden Speakers Toastmasters. I would like to bring up our general evaluator, Rick Starr, to conclude our meeting.
All right, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. This is the section of the meeting where we evaluate the speeches. So I'd like to introduce Louis Denbaum, who will evaluate John's speech.
Wow, what a challenge to evaluate that speech. This is the first time I have ever seen this type of speech, and it's quite an interesting format. So, John, this was a huge improvement over your last speech. Some of the things that you improved upon were less reliance upon your notes and less time behind the podium. You were much more present in the front of the room this time around. Your slides were a big improvement also. They were very, very easy to read. The print was easy. You didn't try to cram too much on each slide. Furthermore, the slides were varied. Some of the slides were words, but many of them, most of them, were pictures, contrasting pictures. I thought that was fantastic use of the visual aids. Some of the questions out of the evaluation. was the presentation interesting? Very interesting. And you drew us in by continually asking us questions. Have anyone traveled to a foreign country? Things like that. Would this be unusual if you saw a snake and a half snake and half human being? So really drew us in. Your humor was great. And you also covered up a faux pas of leaving the pointer in the audience and turned it into a laugh. So I thought that was fantastic. Things that you can improve upon. I noticed that you got here at the very last minute tonight. And when doing a presentation like this, it's really important to get here early. Set up your visual aids and your recording. Recording, the volume was low. The song needed to be on a higher volume. So these are things that you could have done had you gotten here, say, a half hour before, and make sure that the room was set up the way you wanted it. Also, one of the questions is, did the discussion leader effectively monitor the time and gather information from the what's called buzz groups? And obviously you ran out of time. One suggestion might be to only use 2 groups so that the information can be gathered more quickly. Obviously, cut out more of your presentation, leaving more time to balance it with discussion. Let's see. The other thing that might have helped is if you circulated over to the groups during that time rather than hanging back here. I would have gone over to the group to say, everything going all right? Does everyone understand, what the exercise is? And help facilitate the discussion if need be. Overall, I thought it was a fantastic speech, tremendous effort. I really enjoyed it, and the contrast of the different cultures was just phenomenal. So thank you very much, and I look forward to more speeches.
Mr. Timer, did both evaluators qualify?
Yes, they did. Stephen Harper and Louis Denbaum both qualified.
Thank you. Please take a minute to vote for the best evaluator. I'd like to ask our timer, Monty, to give the timer's report.
Let's start off with table topics. Upendra, you spoke for 1 minute and 23 seconds. Jesus for 1:35. And Jean, you spoke for 2 minutes and 6 seconds. For speeches, John, you maxed out at 31 minutes. Stephen Harper, table topics evaluator, you came in at the wire at 3:28 for evaluation. Louis, you also came in pretty close at 3:24. Thank you.
I'd like to call on Annette to give the counter report.
I didn't hear very many ahs and ums. So if I don't call your name, it means I didn't hear you mess up in any way. I just heard a couple ahs from Jeff. One from Annette, right there. I didn't know it, false start. I think Stephen talked Pendra and Jesus a little slow. You might count that as a false start, but we picked on enough. It wasn't that bad. Okay. I heard a pause from Pendra once, kind of a long pause. Made me a little just uncomfortable. This is Jean, but this is for the rest of you. She said a you know, but it wasn't a filler. It was appropriate. So don't be afraid to say you know if you're an eye counter. Don't hold it against anybody for doing it. Stephen, 3 uhs and a no. Couple of so's. So Louis, an and an and a so. And John, I got a pause with your tape. Kind of wasn't really you, but it just took a long time to do that. And, whoops, I like that one. I added that in, but it was cute, so I like it. So that's spelling odd. And Will, I loved your selfie.
Diane, please give us the grammarian's report.
All right, I will. Jeff used outstanding. I also liked when you would mention that we're here at Hy-Vee and like us on Facebook. Will, little grammar thing, we all do this when we're tabletop masters, so it's a reminder for all. We say, pick a number between 1 and 5. We actually should say from 1 to 5. Upendra used magnificent, smashing, tremendous, and outstanding. My favorite little thing from you were my legs were shaking. I think we all experienced that in the beginning of Toastmasters. Jesus, we did good things, bad things, but we had fun, and we were pranksters, well, maybe felons. Jean, all your bad girl stuff. I like that high school, I dated a high school senior, he was high up on the food chain. John Miller used fantastic, and I love that smell of visual?
Smell-a-verse.
Smell-a-verse, I didn't know that word. Smell-a-verse. Thank you for introducing me to, and you have a lot of other things, but those are the main ones. Lewis used tremendous. You get extra credit for using phenomenal, even though it wasn't up there. And Monty, I like when you say came in at the wire. It kind of adds a lot. Saying, oh, it's really close. That's my report, Mr. Grammarian. Thank you.
Now I will evaluate the evaluators. There were two completely different types of evaluations tonight. Lewis evaluated one speech, and the other evaluation was of the table topics. So for the table topics evaluation that Stephen did, he came out in front of the podium and the lectern right away. He established a presence, and immediately he let his personality shine through. He engaged the audience by saying how much he enjoyed the speakers, how great they were, and immediately got that energy going into the room. Stephen often, in a very good way, personalizes his speeches. And with table topics evaluation, there's the challenge of doing 2 or 3 or 4 evaluations in a very short time frame. So for a table topics evaluation, you can't get into a lot of detail. You have to use other techniques. And the technique that Stephen uses very effectively is the technique of emotion. When Stephen praises someone, you can tell it's genuine and you can tell it's heartfelt. And when he says something positive about a speech, he says it in such a heartfelt way that the audience or the group really understands what he's saying. Stephen also did a very good job of repeating or mimicking gestures that people made. He complimented one speaker on his gestures just like a professional speaker. He complimented Jean on her ever flamboyant gestures of communicating her stint as a bad girl when she was 14. So overall, I think, Stephen, you did an outstanding job of effectively communicating information in a nonverbal way and a verbal way within a short time frame. Lewis had a different task. Lewis had to evaluate one speech, and the challenge was to evaluate a very long speech with a lot of different elements. Lewis, being a professional speaker, was up to the task. Lewis went through it point by point in a very clear, concise, direct, well-spoken way, very clear and concise about what John did well. He complimented John on the improvements that Lewis saw from the previous speech. And as a professional speaker, Lewis was well equipped to do this and did a good job. He also showed or spoke of several areas that John could improve in, but it was done in an objective way and without any kind of negativity associated with it. Lewis also did a very good job of moving out into the audience, demonstrating certain things, and Lewis has a very commanding presence when he's a speaker, and that added to your evaluation. Unfortunately, as part of the evaluator, my job is to show areas of improvements for each speaker, and I can't think of anything to say here. So I've fallen down on the job, so I probably won't get a very good evaluation. But Louis, as a professional speaker, you did a very good job of analyzing the speech, showing the good points and areas to improve. And Stephen, you did a very good job of evaluating 3 speeches in a very short time. Thank you. I'd like to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Jim Shipley.
Role player.
Excuse me?
There are roles still to play.
Oh, let's bring up our greeter joke master.
Oh, did I miss something? I'm sorry.
You got it.
I got it, thank you.
There you go.
My job as the joke master this evening is to evaluate the general evaluator's evaluation of the evaluator. There's an agnostic, dyslexic, insomniac. What does he do at night? He lies awake, wondering if there's a dog. Okay, delayed reaction.
We got it. 2 minutes. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, now I'm told that this particular story is actually true. In Chicago, of course, somewhere, there was a robbery. Actually, it was a hold-up man who kidnapped a motorist and forced the motorist to drive around the city to ATMs where he used his own card to withdraw money from his account. His own account. So the question is, what was plan B? I'm done.
Unless I missed something else, Jeff Shipley.
Oh, this is great. Without further ado, let's wrap this up and let's give out our awards for the evening. So we're going to get a anticipating building going. All right, best table time is Dean Simon Fred. Congratulations. All right, and our best evaluator is Louis Denbaugh. I believe I bring up our president, Rhonda Whitaker.
Best speaker? No, he didn't
best.
qualify. Oh, there was nobody. There was nobody.
Ooh, that's kind of awkward. Let's bring up our president for closing comments, right?
Yeah.
Are we running this meeting correctly?
That's right.
Okay. Come on, Rhonda.
Well, we did have a speaker. So our best speaker tonight is John Miller.
No, don't.
He was disqualified. He was disqualified.
I think that was over time. Though.
Yeah, he was disqualified.
That's true, but that's some points for being hard.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Could we fake it?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh.
That's a metaphysical word.
Okay. Now, at this point in the meeting, I'd like to ask if there are any guests tonight who would like to perhaps stand up and say what they enjoyed about the meeting tonight. You don't have to. This is totally voluntary, and you might be on camera, so. Any guests? Okay. All right, we're going to move right on. We have an honorable mention tonight for Jyoti Raj Adhikari. He recently received an Outstanding Student Award from Maharishi University of Management's Department of Business Administration, as Professor Andrew S. Bargerstraw wrote the following. In MBA classes, Jyoti Adhikari radiated serene silence that would spring into action brilliantly when needed. With a self firmly established, Jyoti earned a GPA of 3.7. Beyond the MBA degree, Jyoti earned a postgraduate certificate in lean accounting. That's L-E-A-N. Jyoti, what does that mean exactly?
That means a management process, manufacturing process where it's not a traditional manufacturing process. It's we call lean, where the system is designed in such a way that we reduce the waste. Instead of, we minimize our cost by reducing the waste. So leanness of process, reducing the waste. So that's the process. That's actually the basic of lean things.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
The rest for Jyoti. He also passed the CPA exam and is now licensed in the state of Iowa. He's working as a staff accountant with a local CPA firm, and Jyoti performs audits and does income tax consulting. His employer gives him high praise for his professional behaviors and commitment to excellence. With great pleasure, Jyoti was presented this award as Most Outstanding MBA Accounting Professional. Now we Now, as president, I would like to ask people to please come a little bit earlier to the meetings. We've started late the last couple of weeks. And it's nice if you have roles to be here by 7:35 if you can, so that we can get organized and start on time. Also, since Cindy left and Carol is new, I need some help setting up the room. Carol needs some help learning the routine. So people who have helped with room setup before, it's pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of heavy work anymore, but it's just, we need more hands here at 7:25 or 7:20 to get everything prepared for our meeting to start on time. Also, emails. I've been sending out emails, and I find when I talk to people on the phone that they don't know what I'm talking about when I mention the email. So I'm trying to make the subject line very specific. And I have emails that are going out to our new officers. We'll have something I'd like the new officers to watch for, which is our agenda for the next Executive Officer Committee meeting next week, June 3rd at 6:30 here. Our current officers are asked to write down 3 points that are helpful to the replacement for the coming year. And mentors, please work with your new members as soon as possible. Is there any other business tonight? Jean?
I have one. And also new officers, you want to attend that meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All the new officers are asked to be present next week.
Okay. The one thing I wanted to mention to you all and invite you to is it's going to be a grand finale for the Toastmaster Youth Leadership Program that I've been running with a bunch of 11 actually students, junior high, high school, even college, someone coming over from Mount Pleasant. It's been a really rewarding trip, actually. But if you want to hold Wednesday, June 4th, somewhere in the evening, we're still determining the final location and some of the logistics, but it'll be a restaurant, it'll be a meal, come, and then the kids are going to be presenting Toastmasters style. So it's probably going to be a Rhonda's, but if you're interested in that, let me know. Susan, let me know, and I will make sure you're in the loop on the details. It's being done as an offshoot of the Rotary Club here in Fairfield, but it's been really great. So, hey, let me know. Okay.
If there's no further, Annette?
I would like to say one thing that I think is appropriate for this group. If you were there, you know that magnificent, tremendous, outstanding, smashing, terrific, fantastic, even great described Jim Carrey's commencement address.
Yeah.
That was the best speech I've ever heard anyone give, and I've heard many, many speeches. I was just awesome. Didn't see it. It's on YouTube, I think.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Great, so that's on YouTube. Excellent. I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting until next week at 7:30 for our general membership.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.